If I could go back to my 20s, I wouldn't change where I've ended up, but I would change how I got here because I made a lot of mistakes. And when I think back, there are so many moments where I think, what was I doing? But I learned from every single one of those. And so in this video, I wanted to share some of those mistakes and what I learned from them. Number one was that I focused on money instead of value and skills. And I thought that money was the be all and end all and believed that having as much of it as possible was the end goal. And I thought the only way to achieve that was to climb the corporate ladder as quickly as possible. And yes, money is important and having enough of it to be able to live the life that you want is important. But that one track mindset is what kept me trapped because what I didn't appreciate back then was that money is actually the byproduct of something deeper, and that is creating value. And the way you create value is by developing skills because skills are what open doors and are what make you useful in different environments and allow you to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves and ultimately what give you options. But if you can only create value in one very specific way, and in my case, that was through my job, then you've only got one option. And that's why I thought I had to keep climbing the corporate ladder. But if you've developed a wider set of skills, whatever they may be, you suddenly have many more ways to create value. And more ways to create value means more options and ultimately more ways to earn and take back control of your time. And that's the part that I completely missed in my 20s. And instead of deliberately working on building skills outside of my job, I was fixated on promotions and pay rises and job titles because I thought those are the things that would give me freedom. But in reality, they actually trapped me even more. And so, what I've come to realize since then is that skills are what give you leverage and they are what enable you to walk away from situations that don't feel right. They're what give you the confidence to back yourself because you know that if this isn't working out for you, then you can go and create value elsewhere. So if I could go back, I'd spend less time obsessing over how much I was earning in the moment and more time deliberately building the skills outside of my job that would serve me elsewhere because money comes and goes, but skills stay with you no matter what life throws at you. The second was thinking that I had more time than I did. And so I just gave up on things that I enjoyed. And some of these were little things like making the time to read a book or getting out for a walk when it was nice and sunny or just making sure that I got down to the gym. And I think it's okay, I'll do that tomorrow or some other time instead. And I just worked all the time. I was getting into the office earlier and earlier at 8 a.m., 7 a.m., and then 6 a.m. And it always just felt like there were never enough hours in the day. And working on a Sunday became normalized. So I wouldn't see my family and friends sometimes. I'd miss out on family events. And I always took my laptop on holiday with me in case something urgent came up. And I just convinced myself that now is the time to work hard and that I'll enjoy my life later. And to some extent, that is true. Your 20s and 30s are the years to put in the work. But I think it's important to make sure that you're working hard for the right things and be clear on what you're working for. And there's one moment where I look back and I really say to myself, what were you doing? And it's when my grandma passed away. And in my culture, you start a prayer on the day that someone in the family passes away. And I remember as family were starting to gather at the house or extended family were gathering, I was sat downstairs in the living room on my laptop. And physically, I was there, but mentally, I obviously wasn't. And it was because I was up for a promotion, which I put myself forward for 12 months early. And I was so on edge that I didn't want anything to let slip or anything to jeopardize me getting this promotion. And I also remember I had to go to Belfast for the day for work on one of the days leading up to the funeral. And when I look back, I totally regret that I didn't just give myself the time to be fully present with my family. And what I learned was that time is the one thing that we'll never get back. And so having boundaries around work and having your priorities in order is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself because the truth is that work will never end and your employer will always expect more, demand more from you. And if you're an ambitious person like I am, you will keep saying yes to everything and just keep shifting the goalpost for yourself and never be satisfied. So, one thing I make sure I do now is that I try to be as intentional as I can about how I'm spending my time. And I'm still someone that works a lot, but anytime there is an important family event or plans being arranged with friends and I feel that temptation to not go, I ask myself, will I regret not going to this in 5 years' time? And I try to use that to guide me. Number three was thinking that the money would keep coming forever. And in my 20s, I thought very little about my financial future. I thought that I'd be earning the same amount forever, I'd keep getting those pay rises and bonuses, and I wouldn't have to worry. And so investing and setting up my financial foundations was never a priority. I'd started, but it was more of an afterthought rather than being intentional about what percentage of my salary I was going to invest each month and what I was going to invest in. And instead, I was just living in the moment and spending on things that looked good and felt good in the moment, like designer clothes and fancy dinners every weekend, got the nice car, countless holidays a year. And the holidays I don't really regret because I have some incredible memories that I look back on. And I feel so lucky that I got to have those experiences with my friends and family. But I do wish that I'd started investing more and earlier. And it wasn't until one Monday where I woke up and had a panic attack, and where the working environment at the place I was working at the time had become so bad that I just couldn't face going into work. And in that moment, I remember thinking, well, I can't just leave because I need to earn this income. So I felt trapped, and I realized that actually I didn't have any financial security other than the savings and the small investments I did have that weren't going to last forever. And I hadn't actually built anything for myself that would secure my financial future. And it was a really hard reality check. And it was that realization that forced me to start taking investing more seriously and to start building other streams of income for myself. And I wasn't starting from zero, but if I could go back, I would have started way earlier and as soon as I got my first job and had a regular income. Number four was comparing myself to others and caring what others think. And these two things are probably the two things that wrongly influenced most of my decisions that I made in my 20s. And I spent so much time working to other people's timelines and expectations instead of my own, where I'd look at my peers at work and I chased promotions because I felt like I needed to keep up with them and set my goals based on that. And the main one being that I needed to be earning a certain salary by the time I turned 30. And because of that one goal, every career decision I made was about getting to that point as quickly as possible. So I moved jobs and chased salary jumps and focused on that and ignored the things that were important to me, like the culture of the company I worked at, or making sure I was in an environment where I could grow and where there were opportunities for me to develop the skills I wanted, and making sure that I was working with like minded people. And because I ignored those things, I ended up making some really bad choices. And I still remember one job where my boss would openly talk disrespectfully about her husband sometimes. And I remember there was one day where I was listening to her do this, and I thought to myself, we really don't have the same values at all. But instead of leaving, I stayed because the salary was good. And I cared so much about what other people thought that when I look back, I actually allowed my job to become part of my identity. And it was the thing that I thought gave me status, that I could say I worked for a prestigious accounting firm, or when I told people what I did, it would impress them. And I think there was also this inner need to make my mum and dad proud because of everything that they'd sacrificed, and the feeling of not wanting to let them down is what kept me on that path longer than it should have. And eventually led me to feeling miserable and burnt out and just not happy with where I was in life. And the tipping point was the panic attack that I mentioned earlier. But what I learned was that I'm not my job or my job title or even what I do now. And those are just things I do or what I did. And that the person I am is completely separate to those. And I don't need those things to make my mom and dad proud or any kind of external validation to feel good enough. Where that really comes from is understanding who you are, who you want to be, and making sure that I'm living my life in a way that's aligned with that. And that actually links to point number 5, which is that I didn't question myself enough. And I think we all have that inner voice inside of us that whispers when things don't feel right. And sometimes you feel it within you before you hear it. But not paying attention to those feelings or not allowing that voice to speak up loud enough is one of the biggest mistakes I made. And instead, I quietened it and just carried on doing what I thought I should be doing. And the way that played out was when I was at uni, I had no idea what I wanted to do afterwards with my economics degree. And everyone around me was applying for internships and graduate programs at banks, accounting firms, consultancy firms. And because I had no idea, instead of asking myself what it is I want to do and trying to figure that out, I just went along with what everyone around me was doing, which is eventually how I became a qualified accountant and ended up in a career in finance for 12 years. And it's because I was so full of fear and felt like I needed to have it all figured out and have the perfect job waiting for me by the time I graduated. But when I look back in my 20s, I had all the time to experiment and try different things to figure out what I was good at and what I enjoyed and what energized me, and also probably what I wasn't good at. But instead, I just followed the only path that I knew because I didn't have that questioning mind that I do now. And there's that saying I heard years ago that says, if I'd known better, I would have done better. But it wasn't just the not knowing when I look back, it was also the fear and self doubt and fear of failure that stopped me from even allowing myself to question or explore what else was out there, and just forced me to stay on that one track that I was on. But the lesson I learned, especially over the last 5 years, is that failure is okay because the real learning actually comes from failure. And it's okay to try something new and for it to not work out. And having a positive relationship with failure is actually how you build confidence. And to listen to that voice within myself, allow that voice to get louder, and also pay attention to how I'm feeling and take the time to understand those feelings and use that to guide me. And instead of being busy all the time, spend some time in reflection and thinking and reviewing what I've been doing, what I've achieved or what I haven't achieved, and use that feedback to help me figure out my next move. So those are some of the things that I learned from looking back at my 20s, and this is actually the video that I've enjoyed making the most so far, so I hope you enjoyed it too. Please don't forget to subscribe if you did, and you may also want to check out this video where I talk through some of the things to look out for that will show you you're actually doing much better than you think, even if it doesn't feel like it, and I will leave the link for that over here.